City Council approval of a combined development application number CDA 19-01 for a zoning text amendment, site plan review, and notice of exemption for proposed medical clinic at the southeast corner of East Oak Street and Forest Avenue.
Chairman, Commissioners, tonight staff received an application on June 11th to the Community Development Department and accepted a combined development application from Kelly Architecture and Planning, who was the applicant representing the business owner, for a proposed single-story OSHPD-free medical office building for a future Adventist Health medical facility. Certain development projects may require multiple discretionary approvals. The simultaneous review of several permits as part of the entitlement process is intended to expedite workflow, reduce the time and cost of processing applications, and ensure comprehensive consideration of such projects. Any application for development which under the terms of the municipal code requires these discretionary approvals, or for which an applicant seeks more than one discretionary approval, shall be processed as a single combined application. If any one application requires council approval, the Planning Commission shall be the recommending body to the City Council for all approvals in the combined application and shall make its recommendation following a public hearing. The City Council shall be the approving body for all approvals in the combined application and shall not act without the prior review and recommendation of the Planning Commission. So the following actions that are required by the Commission tonight would be recommendation to approve a zoning ordinance text amendment to allow for the construction of hospitals or clinics with a gross floor area in excess of 5,000 square feet within the commercial, general, and mixed-use zoning designations. Also, council recommendation to approve a site plan review for the construction of a new 11,735 square foot medical office or clinic. And then also, lastly, council recommendation to approve a notice of exemption for the environmental determination under the California Environmental Quality Act. And just to kind of give an overview of the actions, site plan review is required for any new structures, permanent or temporary, erected in the city, and approval by Planning Commission for consistency with all applicable zoning regulations. The purpose of the site plan review is to enable the Community Development Director and the Planning Commission to make findings that a proposed development is in conformity with the intent and provisions of the Coalinga Municipal Code and to guide the building official in the issuance of permits. The proposed project does not fall under the exempt projects and projects qualifying for administrative site plan. Therefore, the proposed project requires the site plan recommendation from the Planning Commission. Secondly is the zoning text amendment. The zoning map and zoning ordinance text may be substantially amended in two ways in accordance with procedures prescribed in the article. Reclassification of the zoning applicable to a specific property, designating a change from one district to another district, commonly called as rezoning, or changes in the permitted uses or regulations on property within particular zones, or citywide, commonly called text amendments, which is what it changes the text in the code, not the actual physical map. And the application constitutes a project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Therefore, staff prepared an environmental determination as part of this land use application. Acres of vacant land The clinic's hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with approximately 16 employees, inclusive of doctors, nurses, and administrative staff. The applicant anticipates to see a total of 90 to 100 patients or visitors per day. The project includes 15 exam rooms, 1 procedure room, and 3 dental chairs with additional office space. The clinic would be supported by 50 parking spaces, including 5 ADA stalls, bike racks, and bike lockers. In terms of looking at the surrounding land uses, to the south, we have the commercial property, which is the old Kmart building. To the west, we have the Chevron gas station. To the east, we have the Walgreens. And then to the north, we have some various commercial uses. The project would use the existing driveway at the westerly boundary of the parcel on West Polk and would have shared access to its adjacent neighbor, Chevron. In terms of utilities, existing storm drain facilities are in West Polk Street and are available to serve this development. Existing stormwater runoff from the project shall continue to be directed west Polk for collection by the existing storm drain facilities. Public natural gas facilities exist in West Polk Street, along with water facilities, and our sewer facilities exist on Forest Avenue. Meters for water and gas services will need to be requested by the Public Works Department and shall be designed and installed to city standards, and landscaping will have its own meter. In terms of the building design, the building is located at the southeast corner of the lot with its entrance adjacent to West Polk Street, accessible from both the street and the parking lot. The building has architectural features to produce an orientation that faces the street and generally parallel to West Polk Street. The proposed building will be reviewed and determined to be generally consistent with the intent of the development regulations for developments within the downtown overlay as it relates to orientation, limits on blank walls, windows, wall plane, and building articulation and building entrances. In terms of parking, in terms of the section 9-4302 of our zoning code, the requirement for medical clinics and hospitals is 1 stall per 200 square feet of area used for office, clinics, testing, research, administration, and similar activities associated with that principal use. The applicant is providing 50 parking stalls on site for patients as well as its employees, which exceeds the requirement per the plan and zoning code of 47, which is 47 stalls. Also, being in the downtown overlay district, on-street parking directly adjacent to the property may be counted towards required on-site parking. However, it's not required, but there is, according to the city engineer, enough room to allow for on-street parking in that particular area if it was needed. As of right now, the property is within the parking standards. The proposed development provides a location for a trash enclosure. The required refuge container location, size, and shape shall be provided on the final site plan and approved by the city of Coalinga's contracted solid waste hauler. In terms of landscaping, the proposed landscape exceeds the minimum requirement for landscape areas that relates to site frontage, parking, setbacks, and equipment screening. A separate landscape plan will need to be submitted to the Community Development Department for review and approval prior to the building permit issuance to be in accordance with the site plan. And then also parking lot screening. Parking lots that shall be screened from adjacent streets by a 10-foot landscape easement containing landscaping, primarily trees and shrubs, a combination of shrubs and berms, not to exceed a 3-to-1 slope, or a low decorative wall not to exceed 30 inches in height. So they provided a preliminary landscape plan with the site plan application, and they have shown that 10-foot setback, so they'll ensure they do and meet those requirements. In terms of fencing, the project has an existing block wall surrounding the proposed development on the western and northern property lines. In addition to the perimeter block wall, there will be a wrought iron security fencing at the northern and eastern locations of the building, located near the walkway for emergency exiting and kind of protects the back of the building. In terms of lighting, the project will include on-site lighting, parking lot lighting, packed lighting for the building, and pedestrian lighting for in the form of bollards to comply with lighting standards, and that lighting will be required on the final site plan. In terms of signage, signage is not included in the application. A lot of times, depending on the design, they'll submit the signage plan or be deferred to a separate application. We do accept signage as a separate application. It's not required as part of the site plan review. It would still have to be in accordance with the planning and zoning code when it comes to signage. So as it relates to the zoning text amendments, that's kind of like the overview of the site plan review, looking at just the design of the building and all the requirements that are associated with developing a new structure within that zone. The other facet to this application is the zoning text amendment. We kind of talk about the zoning map and how the zoning ordinance may be substantially amended in 2 ways. This would be a text amendment. The general plan currently designates this site as commercial general, and the city zoning designation for the site is general commercial. The zoning text amendment would remove the restriction related to limiting the gross floor area for hospitals and clinics to 5,000 square feet in that CG and in the mixed use or NX zoning designation. We reviewed the findings for a zoning text amendment and found there were no indications that the amendment would be detrimental to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the entire city. The zoning text amendment requires 4 findings to be made in order to approve such action. As it relates to the general plan, zoning designation, site location, and environmental consideration, such as biological or traffic, the text amendment would not create impacts beyond what is anticipated from other uses that are permitted within the CG zone, such as retail or other types of uses in that area that do not have those restrictions in terms of gross floor area. For example, we worked with our local council of governments and we got some information on traffic to see what the difference of average daily volumes or peak volumes would be between the retail facility that's permitted by right with no limit on gross floor area and that of a medical clinic with a comparable gross floor area. The retail facility would have twice the average daily traffic volume as the medical office would at the same gross floor area. But if we're limiting the size of the facility does not, in fact, wouldn't have an impact on traffic, it wouldn't reduce traffic. It would in fact have less traffic volume at 11,735 square feet than a retail facility of a similar size. If the clinic were to be restricted to 5,000 square feet, it would still generate less traffic than other permitted uses of similar sizes. So basically, hospitals and clinics are the only ones that are limited in gross floor area. Other uses are permitted by right, which would not require any of these approvals other than a site plan review, which is a non-discretionary review as long as they're consistent with the actual zoning with the actual design criteria. In terms of public notification, on August 1st, public notices were sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the site as required by local and state law, and we posted at multiple locations, and we also emailed the local paper. In terms of environmental review, the proposed combined development application has been processed in accordance with all the applicable provisions of CEQA, or the California Environmental Quality Act, and determined to be a Class 32 exemption under 15332 for infill development projects. Class 32 consists of projects characterized as infill development, meeting conditions such as the project is consistent with all the applicable general plan designation and all applicable general plan policies, as well as the applicable zoning designations and regulations. That the proposed development occurs within the city limits on a project site no larger than 5 acres and surrounded by substantially urban uses, which there are urban uses in all areas. The project site has no value to habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. Approval of the project would not result in any significant effects related to traffic, noise, air quality, and water quality, and the site can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services. So staff prepared a notice of exemption, which is a single form in accordance with section 15332 for infill developments, and at the end of the project discussion, we would file with the county clerk's office for posting. So in terms of reasons for recommendation under our reports here, there's findings for approval of the site plan, and there's also findings for a zoning text amendment. And so for the site plan approval, the findings are that proposed construction alterations are in substantial conformance with the general plan, zoning ordinance, and all applicable plans adopted by the city. The proposed construction conforms to the requirements of all zoning districts. The proposed construction conforms to all applicable design standards and guidelines as adopted by the city council. And the construction alteration will not have a significant adverse effect on the public health, safety, and welfare. And on the zoning text amendment, the findings of the proposed zoning ordinance amendment will not be detrimental to the public health, interest, safety, convenience, or welfare of the city. The proposed zoning ordinance amendment is consistent and compatible with the goals, policies, and actions of the general plan and other applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance. If applicable, which in this case it is, the site is physically suitable, including unlimited access provisions of utilities, compatible with adjoining land uses and absence of physical constraints for the requested zoning designations and anticipated land use developments. So the site can handle the actual facility that's being proposed. And the proposed zoning ordinance amendment has been processed in accordance with the applicable provisions of the California Government Code and Environmental Quality Act. So after the public hearing, the planning commission shall render its decision in the form of written recommendations to the city council. The recommendation shall include, 1, the reasons for recommendation, the relationship of the proposed amendment, and the findings and determinations of the planning commission with respect to the proposed amendment. So that concludes my report. If the commission has any questions, again, Commissioner, this is a public hearing, so.
Any questions for staff?
Sean, were there any responses to the notices in action property?
I didn't receive any written responses.
Sean, I have a question about the environmental review exemption. And I could be wrong on this, because, you know, I'm relatively new. But it says that you can exempt it if it meets all zoning regulations, but it's for an 11,000 square foot building, and the zoning regulation is for 5. So does it?
So what happens is you do an environmental review based on the project being approved.
Okay.
So it would assume that.
Assuming
meets
that
it.
the zoning text amendment
Yes.
goes through.
Because we don't record that document or file it with the county clerk until after the project's been approved.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
For Sean?
The applicant came in, was it May, is that when this first started?
I think I may have met, but it's been earlier than that. Can't exactly remember the first time they came in, but we did have some preliminary meetings initially.
I do not agree with the city engineer's finding that there's room for on-street parking there.
Okay.
With it being a truck route and it being a curved street, and the fact that most people in Central Valley have problems with parallel parking. I personally would recommend striking that on-street parking.
That's what you guys decide. We can restrict parking if you'd like to.
Yeah. Is agree with me or no? Is there consensus to strike the on-street parking? This would be on hold.
If this were to open up, I would be in favor of making all of the street there red.
Yes. Okay. So do we have consensus? Okay. Well, on-street parking?
Restrict that.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay. There are questions for the applicant, correct? Okay. The public hearing is now open before any citizen can come up and speak for or against this proposed project, but we would like to hear from the applicant's representative if they are here first. Please.
Hi, good evening.
If
My
you
name
could come up to the podium and state your name for the record, please. Everybody will be given a chance to speak.
Good evening. My name is Amber Schaefer, and I'm the Senior Project Manager for the Office of Design and Construction for Adventist Health. And this evening, I'm able to answer any construction-related questions as it relates to programming. Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer any of those this evening.
So just confirm.
Yes.
Okay.
However, I can direct those questions to the appropriate parties.
Okay. Questions, anybody?
The plans were beautifully done. You got a great team there you're working with. I look at blueprints now and then. These are well done. I didn't see any wrong.
I always like to ask staffing questions. You will not be able to answer those, or?
As it relates to primary care providers and the like,
Yes.
no, but I can direct those questions to the appropriate person.
Okay.
how long will it take to get answers from the appropriate people?
Well, currently, actually, I spoke with Sean earlier this afternoon, and I was attempting to have a high level, based on our preliminary discussions. She's on vacation, I believe, until Monday, so hopefully by the end of next week, I'll be able to follow up with questions or answers to questions.
Does anybody have any questions that you would like directed to the appropriate people?
It looked like 16 personnel are gonna be staffed there, nurses and doctors. Were they gonna be brought in, or where were we gonna find these people to work?
So as the information I have on programming, I understand that there's going to be 4 primary care providers and 1 dentist on staff. And whether or not they were, the intention is to source from existing staff here at our existing clinic, I'm not really sure, but I can definitely get that program scheduled for you.
The X-ray alcove, is this X-ray, is it for dental X-ray or is it for all-purpose X-ray?
That is for dental.
Oh, just for dental?
Yes.
Okay. What will the procedure room be used for?
I can't answer that, but I can get you answers on that.
Thank you.
Aside from having the physician on site and the dentist on site, what lab services, imaging services, and the like, and also what category of patients will they be able to serve? And will they be closing the existing clinic and consolidating into the new one?
I feel the best way to answer your questions is going to be an overall operations statement for the clinic, and I'll make sure that I get that for you.
Would have been nice to have that when you came. Just contact him.
And I'm not sure if this was consistent with your question, Sarah, about patient care. What types of insurance will be accepted?
That was one of the questions that I was trying to have answers for this evening, and I apologize I wasn't able to contact the correct people.
The number of hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Is that to initially begin, or will that be the hours throughout? Is there consideration of expanded hours, evening hours, weekend hours?
I'll have those questions answered for you.
So the level of emergency use, how much trauma will that be able to handle?
Okay. It's my understanding that it is a standardized clinic. Now, whether or not they will have those type of services, or emergency or urgent otherwise, I'll look into that for you.
And then one other question, it states in there about, waste, working with our current waste management system, but who's going to be handling the medical waste, the syringe?
Looking for a very specific provider as to who Adventist utilizes for those services?
Yes.
Okay.
If there are patients that will need to be referred for outside services, where
Okay.
The services provided here differ from private.
At the current clinic? Okay.
And I do have a non-medical question.
Okay.
It talks about the trees that are proposed to go in on the sidewalk area. How will those be irrigated? Because we have a problem with the drought, and we have a lot of existing trees in the neighborhood that are dead and dying. So is that going to be part of the sprinkling system that's within
The trees themselves, how will those be irrigated? Those should be located within the landscape plans, and I apologize. Admittedly, I am relatively new to the construction team, and I had not been privy to the landscape plans prior to them being submitted, because they actually just came available. So I will provide you a reference sheet as to how those are irrigated, but I would venture to assume they'll be consistent with California Green Code regulations, and taking into consideration any restrictions that you have locally.
They'll probably be on deep root irrigation. The state still has their model landscape ordinance that
Yeah.
really kind of keeps low level water usage, so they'll all be under that standard, so it'll probably be all through.
Okay, yeah, that came to mind because it was either the last planning commission meeting or not planning commission, city council meeting, or the one before that, where we were talking about the dead trees throughout the city.
Yeah, and these will all be, even the ones on the street, will be required to be maintained by the applicant, but they will have the accurate irrigation system. A lot of them are trees that I think were dying during the drought, and as you can see, they're like partially coming back, but I don't think they're actually coming back. So that's kind of one of the biggest issues we're having with a lot of trees, was that transition in the drought, so.
Any other questions? Do you have anything for us?
Not at this time. I look forward to providing you and the community all the questions that you've asked and directing you to the appropriate parties so that you can ask any further questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I saw Mr. Lewis. I saw your hand. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you. I'm Bill Lewis, concerned citizen, and speaking for myself. I am opposed to the approval of this proposed facility. Long ago and far away, clinics and hospitals used to cooperate and work together in the spirit of helping each other. But that was not here, and that was not now. In recent years, our Adventist Health clinic did not support the hospital. Local Adventist Health physicians were sending their patients to Hanford. In my opinion, this definitely played a part in the eventual closure of our hospital. About 5 years ago, when the hospital was on the decline, we reached out to Adventist Health. We said, hey, can you help us? We're having some financial problems. No answer. They were not interested. They did not want to engage with us. After our hospital was forced to close, the interim CEO reached out to many institutions, including Adventist Health. And they showed some interest. And they sent a team of 17 people, and we took them on a tour of the grounds everywhere, showed them everything. We were encouraged that something was going to happen. We heard nothing for several weeks. Finally received a letter stating they did not believe it would be worthwhile for them to take over part or all of our hospital. The reason being that after the hospital closed, they didn't see a significant increase in visits to their health clinic in town. After we learned that Adventist had purchased the parcel in question and was planning to build a new facility, I and others went to Hanford and we visited with some people from Adventist Health to determine the nature of the project. What was it going to be? At that time, we discussed, we were in negotiations with Dr. Singh, and that he had included a clause in his lease purchase agreement that said, that allowed him to withdraw without penalty if another new clinic opened in the area. Not the one that was already here, but another new clinic. We made it clear to them that if they moved in, we would most likely not have a hospital. At that meeting, Adventists reiterated that they had not noticed an increase in their clinical visits when our hospital closed. So I asked, why would they build a new, large facility, medical office building where there is no business? And he would not answer. They referred it to somebody else. So here's the bottom line. In my opinion, based on fact, Adventist Health is no friend to Coalinga. In the past, they consistently diverted clients away from our hospital. If the hospital starts up, they will lose business because now they're the only game in town. So they have a motive. They know if this proposal is approved by you people and by the city council, we will likely not reopen the hospital ever. This is our last chance. So in my opinion, they don't care. More business for them, no competition. They don't even have to build the center because if Dr. Singh decides to pull the plug, they'll continue to have a monopoly on medical services in Coalinga. And will continue to send you and me 50 miles away. I strongly urge the Planning Commission to reject this non-compliant proposal so that our hospital can be reopened with services, lots of services, to the community restored. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm having a little trouble with my knees. My name is Sonia Murphy. I am actually a long-term resident of Coalinga. I was raised here, and now I've lived here since 1997. I wrote a letter to Mr. Brewer, but I'm sure he has not had time to receive it. And in the interest of brevity, I would just like to read some of the items that I have concerns about regarding this issue. And some of it has been covered very well by the previous speaker. If it interferes in any way with the reopening of the Coalinga Hospital, it should not be recommended that this development be allowed. We need the hospital much more than another or larger clinic. Number 2, the planned purchase of the existing hospital includes picking up a lot of debt and eventually hope for a reasonable profit. New competition would certainly impede the advantages for the purchaser as well as the citizens of Coalinga. As you can see, some of these things do not specifically involve the planning of the place, the organization, the orientation of the place, but rather some things that concern citizens that may not have anything to do with what the Planning Commission normally deals with. However, I think this is a place where we have to start. Number 3, we have an aging population, as does any town. The hospital plan evidently includes bringing back the skilled nursing facility needed due to our distance from more populous urban areas. The ability to visit one's loved ones who have to be in such a facility helps both families and facility residents. It would also provide jobs. I see no mention of such a facility included in the Adventist plan for their clinic. So interference with the hospital plan would create continuing heartbreak in this area. I also have wondered, if this proposed clinic is such a good idea, why was it not proposed long before this? Now, there are several other things in the letter, but you won't see it when you get the letter. But I think that right now, that is enough for the Planning Commission to consider, and that is my opinion regarding the building of this clinic. Do you have any questions? Sorry, I'm used to doing that. Thank you. you'll be getting it in the mail,
Okay.
as per the instructions on the information that we received about it.
Hey, thank you. Mr. Ross.
Hello, how are you guys doing today? So, we didn't come for the free things here. I don't think any of us can afford that as free. I can't even believe that this is being looked at, to be honest with you, because I agree with what William said, that this is kind of a deal to make another deal stop. I totally disagree. So we need to focus on the fact that the text amendment is what we don't want. If you focus on the fact that you don't want the company to come in, then that's what this attorney here is probably here to look at. Because it's really odd that we see a city attorney at a planning commission. I hardly ever see that. So we got to focus on this zoning text amendment. What is it? It's allowing more than twice the amount of space in an area that was 5,000 feet. Why was that created? Why was that zoning, why was it created? It was back in 2014 the last time it was updated. I looked at it. And I looked, they have a nice little spreadsheet, and you can see, and right across the board, hospitals, no matter what zone you go to, it's 5,000. So it's not like they could move to another one, because I looked. So, why was that put in place? Maybe it was put in place to protect our investment. I don't know. We have a $12 million bond right now. $12 million bucks. These guys have come twice, and the second time they got it, and 93% of the people voted in favor of allowing them to reopen. And I feel like this is bad faith on anyone who would come in to try and build a building just to stop this from happening. And I don't like that. And just like, William said, I was former mayor, Nathan Bosford here, and I was involved in some of those talks with the CEO, and they were not interested. They played the game. They waited for this whole thing to fall so they could come in and feed the pieces. And I personally believe, now I don't have any information on this, but I personally believe that they're probably not going to take your private insurance. They're probably going to just focus on a certain group of folks because that's a guaranteed payment and that's what they know, and they have that system worked out. I could be wrong. I don't have inside info, but for the fact that they would send somebody here without having the information, knowing that people would want this information, to me is interesting. At least, and I would say that first off, I would recommend that you do not approve this project, even though I'm completely free market, but I'm also a player in this game here because we have a $12 million investment on this bond. And so I'd say that the free market in this is overridden by the entire city's investment in this. And I'm kind of disappointed that, the city would move forward in recommending this in the first place. There's no reason to. You guys do not have to accept this. The text amendment, you can say no. If this was a cannabis company that was trying to go near a school, you would say no. You would say no, this is the code and we're not doing it. Why? You would say it's health and welfare of the safety of the people around. Well, guess what? If we don't get a hospital, this is going to be health and welfare of the safety. So I totally disagree with that statement too, that this does not have health and safety on the whole entire city, because it does. Because if this passes, and we don't get a hospital out of the deal, we're going to have a whole bunch of people that are going to be pretty unhappy and pretty mad. And they're going to, what they're going to do is they're going to watch this video that's on Facebook Live, and then they're going to come to council, and they're going to look at these council members, and that's who it all falls on. It falls on you guys, and it falls on council. And I'm sorry, but that is how it is. I was in your guys' boat, and it's a cruddy thing to be up there. I mean, I listened to lots of people yell and scream at me, and I did the exact opposite. So I know it's going to be a tough one for you guys, but please, 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 we need this hospital. Oh, and here's another thing, financials. Our ambulance right now is currently going gosh knows where, right? If we get this hospital open, that ambulance can go right back and forth to the hospital rather than to San Jose, Fresno, Bakersfield, all over the place. So I also disagree that this didn't have a financial impact benefit for the city as well. I don't know where you guys are getting these numbers at, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Mark?
Yes. All right.
Take that out of the way, Adam.
I want to be me.
Is she?
Like, is the other one done?
Sorry, I gotta use this one. Is it on?
No.
No? No? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Melanie Vargas. I'm one of the Howard residents here in Coalinga. And I just wanted to tell you guys some like true statistics of why we need a hospital versus a clinic. Since December 1st to March 12th, I had been in the hospital 17 times with my leg dying. 17 different times, which approximately 9 of them I had to have the ambulance take me due to how far away it is and the amount of pain. From March 12th, when I got my amputation, till today, I've had 11 trips to the hospital. 6 out of the 11 had to go to Coalinga Delta. And, most of these trips, all I needed was IV antibiotics. Something that no clinic around here could do, something that it had to be done at a hospital, and, I couldn't get it done from a clinic. If I had that here in town, I could have saved millions of dollars of my friends' gases, because obviously I can't drive anymore. I would have saved a lot more. 8 more trips were back to Coalinga Delta using the ambulance here in town for emergencies until my stomach had actually exploded. Each time they would take me to Coalinga Delta, it was a 4-hour turnaround for them. So for 4 hours, nobody in Coalinga could get an ambulance except if it came from somewhere else. And as a resident, I felt guilty each time because I was taking that away. And I don't think you guys should approve anything that has to do with not letting the hospital come in, because my life is pretty much ran on hospitals nowadays. And I'd rather have it close enough to where, if I need a specialized treatment, I could be sent away, but knowing that most of the time it's just for IV antibiotics, and I could have had that done here, but since none of the clinics would do it, I have to go far away, I just don't think it's right. And I don't think you guys should approve this at all.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrea. I'm gonna go ahead and hand these to you guys. This is a hard subject for me to talk about. Sorry. But June 13th, my daughter was admitted to Sanford. It turned out she had SVT, supraventricular cardiotachy, which I haven't talked about it, I'm sorry. We had to have a procedure done to her heart. It turned out her electrical parts of her heart just weren't working. And the scariest part is having a daughter passing out in the ambulance because the closest hospital, the closest hospital's an hour away. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm just here. I want you guys to look at the pictures to see what taking away our hospital will do to us, to our community. We need this hospital, and we need it bad. We don't need another doctor's office. I have 4 kids, and I don't know if you guys do or not, but all my kids get sick at midnight. They all get sick at midnight. I don't need another clinic that closes at 5. That doesn't matter nothing for me or my family. It does nothing for anyone else who's having heart issues. My daughter's heart was stopped. And we're lucky today that she's perfectly healthy and shopping with her dad for school clothes last minute. But, and thank you to the new hospital coming in. It's amazing. $12 million, you said? 12 something? That's amazing. Why are we taking that out of our community? Coalinga's been losing so much already. And as someone who's young, coming into the community, someone who's involved, we need this hospital. Kids need our hospital. Elderly need our hospital. We need our services back. Please vote no.
It's like we all planned this, and now I'm unable to, for all of us, we all look needy. Jack, through this, sooner or later, we all are. I have several points. First of all, I'm shockingly not a shy person because of what I do. I'm always looking for the root. So when I have a question, I call up Christine Pickering. I track her down. She was kind of shocked. She was especially shocked when I said, what can you tell me about the project in Coalinga that
Who is that?
your agency is doing? She's in charge of projects,
Okay.
okay? Not here, I mean, all over,
For
right?
Adventist.
And she said, yes, with Adventist,
Okay.
thank you. And she said, do we have a project in Coalinga? I said, yes, actually you do. It's been submitted to the Planning Commission. Your group has heard. I told her all about it. And she said, well, I guess I'll have to get back to you on that. So she did. And I had a lot of questions. What kind of insurance will you take? What are your hours? What kind of services will you have? On and on, because that's the bad young thing. She got kind of tired of me. And that's why she went on vacation. Although maybe I'm not supposed to say. But anyway, Kristen, I have no idea. Okay, I'm sorry. I had head on collision when I was 20, was in the hospital. They kept telling me I was gonna die. I don't remember the interaction, but they said I made so many jokes that they had a hard time believing that I would ever die. Because I'm just, with that, torn everything open, and they kept saying, why aren't you? Basically, they did say that. I do remember that. We don't know why you're alive. So I laughed. But I'm not laughing about this, not really. I'm extremely concerned. As Andrea pointed out, 8 to 5 is really cool if you're convenient that way. I slashed open my arm Friday at the Coast at a concert. By the time I got back, of course, everything was closed. I called for an appointment. They were open on Saturday. So eventually I got in, but they said, you know what, protocol says if it's over this many hours, we're not going to stitch it. We're just going to super glue it or whatever. And they said it really should have been because it looks like it might be getting, what is it, necrotic, something dead. And they said, just cross your fingers, keep it covered because it's tetanus shot. You're on your way. So that was my own last weekend experience. We committed as a community, as Nathan said, 93% approval to invest and allow somebody else to bring their money, their energy, and their ability. We trusted these people to revitalize, restructure, and reopen not just an emergency room, but a rural clinic, a skilled nursing facility. I don't know how many of you have family members who've been shipped off, some of them more than 2 and 3 hours away. If that's your mom, it's not a pretty picture. If it's, I forget, what's the quadriplegic guy's name? I forget now. Richardson, Brett. I'm sure his family's not happy. He's not here. There's a lot of people that are affected. We, as also pointed out, we've invested $12 million of our own dollars into a facility. Now I know that Dr. Singh could just go out on a wild deer and say, you know what, dang it, those people in Coalinga are so great, we're gonna put our money into that facility, cross our fingers, and hope because we're friendly and we know what we're doing that they'll just support us anyway. I don't know about you, I don't have $12 million hanging around to just gamble with. I'm not that type of person. I'm suspecting that American Adventist, or I always get confused, I'm so sorry, I forget whether it's American or which way, that I don't think they're gamblers. They pretty much know what they're doing. So they committed, they're here working, they're putting their money, even as we speak, into a project that you have the ability to do this. And I meant to say this because on the phone, on a message that Ms. Pickering left for me, she said, and I don't have the recording because I'm a blonde and I'm convinced, but it said, she said, we may or may not build that plant. It's all up in the air. We're researching. Sorry. Construction people are here too, so that's not cool news, but, so it may or may not happen. I have a lot of notes to go over, but basically that's the thing. We committed as a community, we voted. Well, I know we didn't vote you guys in, but we voted our city council in. And frankly, if I saw the planners and the commission and the council of this city not doing what is actually the best for our welfare and growth and sustaining a healthy and productive community, I know it's just me, but I would certainly not be happy. I want to point out, Ron Lander, back when we were doing all the cannabis stuff, do you remember how many times Ron ever voted yes? None. Because people came and they talked to him, and I said, Ron, why are you doing this? Because his constituents said no. He knew it was a losing battle, but he said he knew what the people wanted.
Closing comments, please.
That's basically it.
Okay.
And you've read what I wrote already, because I put it out there, but yeah.
Thank you very much.
So if I write something and it's not accurate, or I got something wrong somehow, or it's wrong inflection, unless I put editorial above it, it's supposed to be factual. So if you catch me doing something wrong, tell me, and I will fix it as soon as I can. Okay? Because I know it's a tough job.
Well, I will bring this up from about 2 or 3 issues ago, when you published all of the commission's names.
Yeah.
At that point, you know, us as commissioners, we hadn't seen a staff report, we hadn't seen, so, I mean, you publish our names, and if we have people coming up, we were just as much in the dark, you know,
Well,
so.
what question then, why can I access it if you can access it and you haven't seen it? I don't know, but if it was me, I'd be all over that like a flea on dogs. If I knew something really important was coming out, I know I'm just a newspaper, but when I know something's coming out, I'm frothing at the mouth. I'm just looking to see what are they going to say this time, because I want to know.
When did you put the staff report out? Was it a week ago?
Same day that it was emailed to her.
It wasn't hot off the press. It honestly wasn't. But I do get emails from him. But I'm sorry, I just assumed, you know what that is, but I assumed that he also emailed me to me. I look, is that true, Sean? No.
Same day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no secrets.
Then I do have a question about, who owns the property?
The Knights do. The Knights.
So,
There's-
is,
Adventist
says
is
what it
not
says,
owned.
Adventist is not purchasing
The
the
Knights,
property?
the Knights have an option on the property, so.
Okay, sir.
Oh, I see.
Well, good evening. My name is Ephraim Aguirre, and I've been a resident of this city since 1979. And one thing I don't see in this picture that you really have not seen the picture, which is true facts, is that when an injury occurs, whether it be out on the county, the city, or the interstates out there, where is the fire department? They're the ambulance that respond to those locations, and where do they take the patients? During that time period I was here, they would bring them to the hospital. The hospital was there for a purpose when the Interstate 5 was built, and that assisted and saved many lives. It even saved my mom. It even saved mine also. Me hearing and seeing that the hospital is not coming back in because just the small medical facilities is coming on board, not to provide the safety and assurance of the public, not just here in Coalinga, but out there in the roadways. When I came out here, I transferred from East LA to here as a CHP officer. I can tell you the facts of the injuries and response of the first responders out there, how they helped and how they got the patient there, and how I had to go to the hospitals and take statements from the individuals and assist the public and assist those persons that were there, what to do, where to go, and how to help them. That needs to be brought back over here. We haven't had that since the hospital shut down. Excuse me. And the thing is that I'm looking at the employment that that hospital provided versus what this one is doing. It's not doing nothing for our city, for people who could use or start their employment with that hospital coming on board. That will bring income to this city. Not only that, it will decrease the ambulance, the response, they're going out. Now the city, I know, has to be paying money over the yang, sending those ambulances out to those areas where they're no longer able to provide services here and they have to call outside. And then that takes time for that services to come over here. And even the police have their ambulance out there, so they have to send ambulance from the outside to come over here. Look at the cost it's causing, and look at the wear and tear it's doing to the equipment of the city fire department. We're not looking at that. And the wear and tear that it's doing to those firemen that are doing that or transporting them. It takes a wear and tear on them. They have to get up in the middle of the night, and sometimes they don't even have time to sleep. That also puts them in jeopardy. You gotta look at that safety factor. The whole thing has to do with safety. It has to do with the lives that the hospital saves. The medical facilities does not save lives. It's not. All we're gonna do is refer. We don't need that. We need a hospital where people can go and get the services they need and they need to be provided. That's what we need. And I'm against this, really against this. And I'll assure you, if this ever passes, I will find my way, based on my background, to find some way to fight this. And I will use the public in the city here to fight. So hopefully you think not of what this facility, I want you to think about lives, people's lives. That is the most important thing about here, is the lives. How they save it, how they can stabilize it in critical matters and even in minor. They are there to help us. And that is all I have to say. Can I leave it in your hands?
Good evening. My name is Jim Bosper. I'm a citizen of Coalinga. I'm also the city treasurer. I hear a lot of people here that have a lot of questions, and the agent for the applicant didn't answer many of them. In my position as the city treasurer, I've always preached fiscal prudence. What are we doing? How are we handling the public's money? And I've always felt a great responsibility to oversee the financial situation of the city in my elected position. What I haven't heard here tonight is the fiscal impact of a project we already have $12 million invested in, and how that will fiscally affect what we already have going. If we bring in this entity, how is that going to fiscally impact the project we already have going? Until someone can answer that question, I don't think it's prudent whatsoever to okay this under any circumstances. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Trish Gell, and I have served on the city council, and I was proud to say that I was mayor of Coalinga. My husband is a frequent flyer to the ER room. He has a condition called chronic shoulder dislocation. He has dislocated his shoulder 21 times. When we went to the ER here, we were in and out within 2 hours. They got his shoulder back in, got a sling, we went home. When we have to go to Hanford, and believe me, it's always in the middle of the night, the least amount of time that we sat in the emergency room at Adventist Health Hospital was 7 hours and 25 minutes. We have been there as long as 11 hours waiting to be seen. That is not acceptable. My other concern is we had a family doctor for many years and he retired. The hospital had the rural health clinic. We went to the rural health clinic. They welcomed us with open arms. They were great. They were awesome. They treated you. You didn't have to wait hours in the waiting room. You were in and out. Well, then the hospital closed the clinic. And it happened to be at a time where we were back in the ER with the shoulder. And I was asking one of the nurses if they had any recommendations for a doctor. And they said, oh, well, you have a doctor there, Dr. Griffin. Well, I contacted Dr. Griffin's office, and Dr. Pitt agreed to take us as patients. Well, then she left. So here we are without a doctor again. So I asked Adventist Health one more time. I said, where can we go to get a physician in Coalinga, because Dr. Griffin wasn't taking any Medicare patients. She said, well, we have a clinic in Coalinga, Adventist Health. So I called them. The first question she asked me was, what kind of insurance do you have? And I said, we have Medicare and supplemental. And she said, you will have to see a private physician because we only take Medi-Cal patients. So this is not serving the community. It's not serving me. And to me, I'm being discriminated against because I'm not on Medi-Cal. And it's not right. And I can't see why you would even think about okaying this project. And then we also have the bond. We're paying that bond back on our property taxes. And we're still going to have to pay that bond whether the hospital opens or not. I want to see something for my money because it's my money and we need a hospital. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and board members to give me some time. And
Can't hear.
We can't hear you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members, and thanks for giving me some time. And please bear with my accent. And I grew up in Coalinga, and I just wanted to give you some background from where we are. And my name is Dr. Gurpreet Singh. I am an internal medicine doctor and gastroenterologist, and I represent the Medicine Advanced Management Group. We own 6 hospitals, we own 2 nursing homes, we have 3 nursing colleges, and we have a home health and hospice which runs all the way from Massachusetts to Chico County. We have almost 3,000 employees, and we brought our team together from the East Coast, from LA, from Bay Area, from Southern California. And we started first project with the Modesto Hospital, which is a city hospital. And mostly our healthcare business was in the city before. And first time when we came to know that Coalinga Medical Center got shut down because of similar issues, what happened there. And since I grew up in that county, and like none of our financial people were interested in that particular project because rural hospitals have a very difficult time to survive. So I took a challenge, and even everything was against, like the numbers were not in our favor. And we opened up, we took over that project in 2016, and we opened up that hospital. And that hospital had, initially those clinics were taken by Adventists, and they were not interested in the hospital part, but they kept the clinics. So we opened up the hospital. We had a very hard time to survive in Coalinga Hospital because of not having the clinics. The clinics are a backbone for the hospital. The reason is that's where majority of the patients, they build their relationship with their doctors, and that's how they come to know about the hospital. And finally, we bought those clinics from Adventist, and now the hospital is doing very well. Then we took over another small hospital, which is similar size like this hospital called Glen Medical Center in Glen County. And that project was looked by Dignity, by Adventist, by everybody. Nobody was interested in that hospital. So when I looked at that hospital, it's a similar size 25-bed hospital, and the numbers did not make any sense. But I took the challenge. I took my team, and everybody was thinking about it's going to be really tough. Since we also have a doctor, we have a physician group, and there are a lot of doctors in our group. And the first thing when we took over Glen Medical Center, we knew the focus should be also on the clinics too. So we have 2 clinics with the Glen Medical Center where we added a lot of new doctors. We added cardiology service, we added gastroenterology service, we added orthopedic service. Primaries were always there. And what I did was the primary doctors were not happy from the previous management. So we approached to and from my experience, no hospital survives when the local physicians don't support it. So what we did was we sat with the local doctors, we make them the part of the hospital, and we brought them back to the hospital. And that's what changed the whole scenario. And that hospital, when we took over, there was 1 or 2 patients in that hospital. And now the census of that hospital goes up to 90%. So, and the clinics are almost 200% increase in their volume. And the increase in the volume is because of adding all the new services. We have primary doctors, we have specialties, and remodeling those clinics and all those things. So now that hospital is also surviving. And then we took over another hospital in Sonoma, which was a district hospital, and they also have to go to election, and we won the elections by 77% votes there, and that hospital is also failed multiple times, and it's now doing very well, And Coalinga Hospital, about this hospital, first of all, this is a beautiful community. I haven't seen anywhere more support from the community than about this Coalinga. Especially I see the passion in all the district board members, how much passion they have about the hospital. And this particular hospital is a beautiful building. It has all the things which a hospital requires. And I looked at the history why this hospital got shut down. And as Mr. Bill mentioned, few things. First, local doctors were not happy, and then second, the other bigger hospitals were trying to snag business from this small community, and patients were being referred to those hospitals and bypassing the local hospital. And with the time, the volume went down, and the hospital had financial issues. And at that time, we were called before the hospital was shut down, but they already sent the termination to Medicare. And we did our best to keep the hospital open. So basically, when they called us, we already lined up all the doctors and all the staff, and we sent a letter to the CDPH, CDPH, and we said, there's no need to close the hospital. We have staffing, we have everything. But the issue was there was no patient in the hospital at that time. So by rule, if there is no patient for 48 hours in the hospital, the Medicare terminates the license. So they follow the path of termination, and once the license is terminated, it's very hard to reopen the hospital. It needs a lot of capital, and the hospital has almost 8 licenses, One is acute care license. And then before even we go up to acute care license, we have to get a pharmacy license, we have to get a lab license, we have to get a radiology license, we have to get a kitchen license, nutrition license. And then once we have all licenses lined up, then we have to get the CDPH license for the hospital. We already paid almost over $100,000 in different pieces to keep the license active. Because if we don't pay those pieces, then we have to follow a new code, and that's impossible in a building which was built before 2016. So our team was very excited to reopen the hospital, and they are already working behind the you guys are not seeing here the progress, but our team, it's a lot of application process. We have to go through a lot of hoops, and we are already working on those. And our whole goal was to, this hospital already has a beautiful clinics, and it has a large space, and they were not using before even the large space. And our goal is, the way we brought in Calusa and Glen, those specialty clinics also. So not only primary clinics, we are going to focus first on the primary clinics, then we have to focus on the specialty clinics. Even if an orthopedic doctor comes once a week, depending on the volume, if a cardiologist comes once a week, and instead of all these patients, they have to travel to Fresno or Hanford, they have to stay local. And we are not against Adventist or anybody. It's just anybody who will open the clinic. When they open up the clinic, these clinics are always under the hospital license, because these are under OSHPA 3 building. So they have to have a hospital license. And once there is a hospital which is involved with these clinics, all those doctors which are going to work in that clinic, they have to credential through that particular hospital, whether it's Hanford or whether anywhere those clinics they belongs to. And when that happens, they always have a tendency to refer all those patients back to the mother hospital. And that's with a very, if it's in a city hospital, it's different. They have a lot of PR volume, they have a lot of other ways to survive. But in a small hospital like this, it needs, all things needs to be together. So the reason we had this condition, when we took over this project, was because we are here for a long term. We are not here for a short term try and fail. And the long term survival for the hospital is if they have the clinics, and if they provide all kind of services. And even before we came in, we spoke with the local doctors, we spoke with Dr. Griffin, we spoke with Dr. Eckberger. We did not want to come in until they are interested to come back to the hospital. And they showed, they promised us that they are going to support the hospital. And that's what we needed. And I see the community support, I see everything. So once this thing came in about the new clinics, my team was very discouraged at the corporate office. And they called me, doctor, saying this is something going on, and you have to go and talk to the chairman and the planning commission that how it can affect the hospital. So the impact of the hospital, I have seen towns where there is no hospital and they got shut down. You will see the impact of shutting down the hospital after 1 to 2 years. Basically what happens then, no new teacher comes. Because when any teacher wants to come and move here, they always look for the hospital. If there is no hospital, they will not come here. All the new businesses will not come because all the businesses require workman comp and all those things, and it's very difficult for any business in a long term to survive without not having a doctor, because they cannot find talented staff, and because staff, they all have babies, families, parents, and they all need a hospital. So my request here is, we are very excited to open the hospital. We are working on a very, in a very passionate way. Especially, we see the community support from here. My team is going to be more excited now, especially when they will see these videos on the Facebook, that how the community really wants the hospital. And so that's what I came from Modesto to say about. And the kind of, you guys are going to have all services in the hospital. anyway. Because if you see the two-story building in the hospital, that is all clinic area. And it's already there. There's no need, it's already there. We just need to hire doctors. We are already in the process of hiring doctors. We are already in the process of hiring ER doctors. So we are going to provide complete service. Not just the emergency room, acute care beds. We are going to bring some swing beds. Swing beds is another thing where, when these patients who have complex surgeries in Fresno or somewhere else in the Bay Area, we can bring them back to the hospital after their surgeries. And then we are going to reopen the skill beds, the nursing home. So that's also, we are very specialized in. And we are also going to bring home health and hospice service local in the community. And that's what we did in other hospitals. In Coalinga Hospital, we brought the home health, we brought the hospice service, home health service, especially the patients who are very elderly, very sick, we provide nurses at their home. And we provide physical therapy at their home, so they don't have to travel anywhere. And hospice service, when anybody at the at the last stages of their life, they need always some kind of a support from professionals, we provide that too. So our goal is to provide all those services, and we already have existing building. So that's where I just want to tell my story about this. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against this?
Can I add one thing, just a tiny thing?
Okay.
I'll do it right from here. I'll be candid. 2 weeks after the hospital closed, I had a heart attack, which really shocked me because I didn't know I had one. And EMTs were also shocked. They didn't know I had one. And I'm grateful for the care I got. It would have been much nicer not to have to sit in the back of the ambulance having the guy on the phone telling them, well, are we close enough? Because I guess they can hook up their data from the thingies, but you have to be at the right, if the sun is in the wrong place or a bird's flying over, it might not. So it's kind of I was hoping for the best, and it obviously worked. But also, it was like the time when my child decided to explode a bottle in their eye. If we hadn't been able to get to the hospital, right then, he would have lost his eye. I mean, it was that close. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I've got grandkids, and they're every bit as exciting as we were. So, and I really applaud you and what your team is doing. I think you guys are superheroes.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Barbara Rodriguez, and I've been sitting here listening to, all the fine folks of Coalinga come up and talk about, why we should turn down, this clinic, and, and I agree with every single person, everything that's been said. We need a hospital back in this community if we want our community to continue to grow. People bought homes here, they want to, they want to live here.
Have a similar clause in those contracts where an exclusivity clause, where if another clinic came in, you would not continue forward with that contract.
So you learn by your mistakes. What happened was we only felt that center. Other hospitals always had their clinics. Glen Medical Center, we grandfathered 2 clinics with it, so we never had this issue. But in Coalinga Medical Center, the clinics were owned by the hospital where the Adventists had their clinics, so we knew it. If we don't renew their lease, they are going to go anyway. So we did not have to put this kind of a clause. And what they did, the Coalinga Medical Center is owned by the county. By the county, the real estate is owned by the county. So the
where if there is competition, you will not.
It's not a competition issue. You are taking it in a wrong way. It's competition is like, we welcome Adventists to open up the emergency room. Like, they are cherry picking. So basically, these clinics are the only ones where, like, they especially rural health clinics, they don't get into loss. The loss is in the emergency room. So how you do it is like, you generate some revenue from these clinics and you support your emergency room from that revenue. So that's how it goes. The rural hospitals never make money. They just try to be sufficient to keep their bills and pay their bills. And that only happens when clinics support them.
And what insurance will you be taking?
We take all insurances.
Including
Just a question. Do you have an idea when that hospital would be open?
So the main thing with the hospital is the pharmacy. So basically what happens when the license goes into suspension, we have to bring back all those licenses. And the pharmacy is the one which takes longest. Pharmacy sometimes takes 4 to 6 months to get the pharmacy license. So we already spent we open the emergency room and we started admitting patients. Still we don't have a Medicare number, meaning Medicare number takes a long time to come. So that's where you lose a lot of money. So basically what happens when we get our pharmacy license, when we get all the licenses, we are ready for the hospital and we have emergency doctors, all the staff hired, everybody trained. We call the CDPH and we tell them we are ready to come for their visit. They come, and majority of the time, sometimes they always find some little things here and there and they want us to do those things again, and then they come back again within few weeks. And once that is done, then they allow us to admit patients. Then our emergency starts, like we open up our emergency room, we start admitting patients. And once we have 30 patients or 180 days of patients, then we can call the Medicare to come for survey. And once the Medicare comes for the survey, that's the day, like the hospital can be paid on Medicare patients. Before that, they are not paid on any patient service. So that's another capital we have to keep in account. Like that's why nobody wants to come, because they lost the Medicare number. And once we get our Medicare number, then we have to get our Medicare number back. And once we get our Medicare and Medicare number back, then we have to apply to all the commercial payers, all the insurances. So it takes 2 years to get into full shape.
But when do you predict it to open?
The hospital?
Yeah.
So basically, once we, most likely, it will be like, in December, we will be able to know much more. Like the pharmacy, where we are with the pharmacy, where we are with the radiology. Kitchen is not a that major issue because kitchen is under the county first. We have to get a county health department to clear us from the kitchen. Once we have that ready, then when the CDPH comes in, they do the survey. So sometimes, normally with the new law now, the CDPH has to show they show up within 104. And for example, in Glen Medical Center, they had a staffing only for 3 to 10 patients. Employees. If we had cardiology clinic, it will add 6 to 10 more employees. With the nursing home, it will add 100 employees. So And if we have to bring in nursing home some subacute beds, then it will add another 30, 40 employees. So, and the other thing is the city and the city of Coalinga is also going to get a lot of tax revenue. Like, because once, it's for profit, so we have to pay a lot of tax to the city, and so that's another advantage to the city. And plus, city always, when a teacher from anywhere, Fresno, wants to move here, they always have some issues with orthopedics, cardiology. They always want to see if they have. So all those kinds of services are going to help the city. And they're already Calusa became a ghost town. We opened up after two years that hospital, and this hospital does not require a physical improvement. It's already in a very good shape. And so that saves us a lot of time. And because some of the hospitals which we took over, they required a lot of physical improvement in the plan. So this hospital is in a pretty good shape, so it will save us that time.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Is there any need for further discussion? Okay, seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion.
I'll recommend not approving the zoning text amendment.
Okay, Commissioner Pruitt made a motion to not recommend the zoning text amendment. Does this motion have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Garza made the second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Is that a yes or a no? Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmar?
No.
Vice Chairman Jacobs?
I'd be a yes.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes. So after with the zoning text amendment being voted down, there's no need for us to, is there a need for us to vote on the site plan review?
Well, I mean, it's basically a negative recommendation to council for the application, essentially, so yeah, so it's just the text amendment, it includes the application, so it would be a negative recommendation staff would bring to the council.
Okay.
I'd just like to make a comment, Scott, I think maybe got a little heat for bringing this in for whatever reason, but, we've always been pro-growth here at the planning commission, and, I continue taking all applications for any business, doing what you do. This is the right way to continue.
Yes.
And I'd like to piggyback on that, Sean. I was talking to a community member this morning, and they were talking about, and they were asking where the clinic was going to go. I said, that lot over there, we were talking about it, and that lot is one that people just turn a blind eye to. Like, you don't even recognize that it's in existence, much less that it could hold a clinic that's 11,000 square feet. And so the designs were beautiful. The building is amazing, but I believe the 5,000 square foot limitation citywide on only medical is probably there for the reasons Dr. Singh was talking about, but definitely keep bringing stuff in because we do need stuff here, and that's it.
Thank you. And we would like to say thank you to all of the citizens who turned out. It was greatly appreciated to see as much participation tonight. Thank you for your civic participation. And with that, we're going to take a 10-minute, we're going to adjourn for 10 minutes and have a 10-minute
What's the next one?